Okay, ma'am, you can start. It's 1 p.m.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm Mrs. Tripta Gujral, working as PGT Physics in Police TV Public School, Jalandhar, Kant, with my co-partner.
Myself, Jaswinder Kaur, working as PGT Physics in Dayanand Model Senior Secondary School, Dayanand Nagar. And good afternoon to all present here.
Today, we feel highly honored that we have got an opportunity to conduct this webinar of physics for senior secondary classes. We are extremely thankful to Ma'am Principal, Dr. Rashmi Vij, ARO Jalandhar Zone, for providing this platform. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your guidance and your blessings. We are also highly thankful to our cluster in charge, Mr. Yogesh Gambhir, Principal of DAV Public School, Vellore, for his unconditional support and giving us the opportunity to connect with you. Dear participants, in order to maintain the decorum of the webinar, please go through these points carefully. Kindly mute your phones while the program is on. For communication, use the chat box. Wear earphones or headphones for better clarity of voice. Take permission from the organizer if you wish to present via your screen. Do not speak in the middle when the program is going on. Quality of the program depends on the network bandwidth and when we follow the set rules. Kindly unmute your microphone when it is your turn to present. And last but not the least, at the end of the session, attendance link will be shared. It is mandatory to mark the attendance. Dear friends, we all know that what a critical situation we all are facing today. As the world goes through a crisis and we all have been quarantined, let's utilize this time to increase not just our knowledge, but our skills also, so that we can serve our students in a better way. In the present scenario, we have been already shifted from classroom teaching to online teaching. There is a transition from classroom teaching to online teaching. The learning outcomes of today's webinar are, at the end of this webinar, you will be able to first differentiate between competency-based education and traditional education. Describe what is meant by learning outcomes. Discuss the various advantages for using learning outcomes. Apply the relationship between learning outcomes and assessment, and to construct child-centric pedagogy. CBSE has sent a circular in which special emphasis is given on CBE, that is competency-based education. Competency-based education is for the development of practical and life skills among the students, which they can use in their real life after their schooling, rather than just depending upon their textbook knowledge. In this webinar, first we will discuss about CBE, that is competency-based education, and then a sample lesson plan will be discussed. A point you have to make clear over here, that you all have to prepare a lesson plan based on CBE within a week. Compiled lesson plans will be forwarded to respected ARO ma'am and the cluster head. Now, competency-based education. Competency is a set of skills, abilities, knowledge that helps an individual perform a given task in real life. Every learning should go into the imbibing of skills that will help the individual perform tasks, or take action to lead a productive and joyful life. I like to clear this term here. As we prepare our students for different skills like practical skills, skill of art, dance, sports, etc., they use this platform to excel in their next selected fields after their schooling. Now, this skill can be as simple as buying groceries from a store or as complex as flying an aeroplane. I'll take an example here of the simplest example, that is buying the groceries from a store. Now, for buying groceries from a store, the learner should be able to navigate the route from his home to the store, locate the items in the store, pay the bills, check the total bill, and then match both the list. Now, if I come here to our subject physics, physics explains the measure of the different physical quantities that play a vital role here. That is, distance to be covered from his home to the store, the direction to be chosen, the speed with which vehicle will move, accelerating the vehicle on a smooth road, applying brakes to bring retardation on a hushy road. Then in this grocery shop, checking the weight, volume, length of the items to be picked from the grocery store. So in buying groceries from a store only, we can see how many skills are required. So several competences are required by a person to succeed in real life, and all these should be acquired in the process of learning, that is during schooling. Now, according to Richards and Rogers, competency-based education focuses on outcomes of learning. That is, what the student will do after learning, after schooling, how they will apply that skill, that knowledge in their real life. CBE addresses what the learners are expected to do rather than what they are expected to learn about. Now here, I will like to differentiate between competency-based education and traditional education. Now, competency-based education is skill-based coaching. That is, it focuses on development of skill among the students through minimum core content. It is self-paced, online, less expensive. That is, it defines competences attained after a certain time, in which specific part of curriculum is covered through online. Now, on the other hand, traditional learning approach is based on contact hour, instructing, seat time. That is, content keeps on increasing by the teacher and evaluation is done at the end of the term. Now here, dear participants, I like to differentiate between the term that is competency and skill. That is, what is the difference between competency and skill? Skill is a specific learned ability which is required to perform a job successfully. That is, for example, skill can be computer programming, it can be foreign language proficiency, and it can be welding, etc. On the other hand, competency is knowledge and behavior that makes a person successful in a job. For example, it can be database decisions, problem solving attitude, initiative taken in the job, like that. So this is the difference between competency and skill. And the main difference of here is, that is, competency is the skill, knowledge, behavior of personal abilities. here is competency-based education. A figure is given over here. So simply, earlier, the teaching was teacher-directed in isolation. That is based on instructions having passive learners, as we can see in the first figure. But now, in CBE, it is learner-directed in collaboration with all the students and the teacher, focusing to the students and making them as active learners rather than as passive learners in the traditional education. Now, let us discuss some of the advantages of CBE, that is competency-based education. The very first point is participants will achieve competencies required in the performance of their jobs. That is, we all know that in today's competitive era, smart, competent employees are needed everywhere who are confident, reliable, and they think out of box, and not those persons who lack confidence and follows the policy do as directed. Our traditional teaching methods used to create underconfident employees. But now, CBA focuses on that we have to understand that the real exam of the students starts when they complete their education and enters the real world after schooling. Obviously, second point, participants build confidence as they enter or succeed in mastering specific competences. Third is self-pacing. That is, participants can move quickly through material they know or take more time if they need it. That is, students move according to their own pace. That is, for easy concepts, they can take less time of their own, and for difficult, they can take more time as their requirement. Now, the question arises here. What do I want my students to learn? How can I express my goals to them and make these goals clear to my colleagues and myself? So a question arises here. So if I don't know where I am going, I will probably end up somewhere else, the wrong path I will choose. So it is teachers' fundamental task to frame proper learning outcomes in an effective manner. Now, what a learning outcome is? A learning outcome is a statement of what a learner is expected to know, understand, or be able to do as a result of a learning process. Learning outcomes are simply formal statements that tell us what a student is able to do after learning a given concept or a topic. Now, why learning outcomes are important? The question arises here. What is the importance of learning outcomes? Learning outcome is must, as student will come to know what he has to do. It is simply a description of performance that you want your learner to be exhibit his behavior during his learning. And good learning of outcomes decides right teaching methodology and also helps to frame right assessment. So here the question is that learning outcomes are very important during the teaching learning process. Now, here I will like to differentiate what is the difference between learning objectives and learning outcomes. In our previous lesson plans, I'd like to ask a question over here. Malini ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask a question over here that in previous lesson plans, you used to write learning objectives or learning outcomes?
Learning objectives, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So in our previous lesson plans, we used to write learning objectives. But now we will write learning outcomes instead of learning objectives. So question here arises, what is the difference between learning objectives and learning outcomes? In learning objectives, here the teacher expects students to know and be able to do at the end of the instructions, that is at the end of the topic. And during learning outcomes, when we write learning outcomes here, the students are able to do at the end of the topic or at the end of the concept when it is built. So in our coming lesson plans now, we will write learning outcomes instead of learning objectives. Now, proper framing of the learning outcomes and linking them with pedagogical processes. Pedagogical processes here is teaching methodology, and assessment is crucial for the success of CBE. So if we want to implement CBE in our teaching learning process, we want the very first step, that is framing of correct learning outcomes, and then framing of right pedagogical strategies, and then framing of right assessment. So let us discuss what are good learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are SMART. Good learning outcomes, they should be SMART. SMART here, S means that specific, that is the task to be done, which is not general. It should not be broad. It should be related to the concept only. M, measurable. We have to use that action verbs while framing learning outcomes which we can measure. For example, calculate, draw, differentiate, plot, compare. A, attainable, that is achievable, which the students, they can do. R is relevant. Of course, the learning outcomes should be related to the topic. And T, time bound, that is time limit to do the given task. Now, how to write a good learning outcome? What is the formula for writing a good learning outcome? The outcomes should start with a stem sentence and then an action verb. Now here I'd like to give an example. Please listen carefully, all of you. We have two stem sentences and an action verb I have related here. The first one is, suppose I'm doing the chapter gravitation in 9th standard or in +1, and I want to ask them to state Newton's law of gravitation. So I'm giving two learning outcomes over here. I'm stating two learning outcomes. You have to tell me which you will prefer. Please listen carefully. The first one is to enable the students to state Newton's law of gravitation. And the second is students will be able to state Newton's law of gravitation.
Second, ma'am.
Yes, exactly.
Second one.
Second, yes. So, Ritika ma'am, first or second, which you will prefer? Naresh sir, first or second, which you will prefer, sir?
Second, ma'am, will be able to
Yes,
state.
exactly. We all will prefer second. Now, second is better. What is the reason for that? When we start our statement, when we start formulating our learning outcomes with enable, that includes less involvement of the student. It seems to be more teacher oriented, teacher centered, and responsibility is wholly on the teacher when we write enable. And when we write students will be able to, that means more involvement of the students. Teachers centered की बजाय अब ये क्या हो गया, learner centered. Student पे है responsibility. Responsibility is wholly on the student. So in all your learning outcomes, you will use only students will be able to. Here we are displaying 100 verbs on Bloom's taxonomy. So you can choose any action word from this to write your learning outcome. Next is the list of the verbs which is to be avoided. Kindly go through it because we have to avoid these verbs while writing our learning outcomes, because we have to choose that action verb जो clearly depict करे हमारा learning outcome. Now, next is pedagogy. That is teaching methodology strategy that we have to apply. Pedagogy includes how the teaching occurs, the approach to teaching learning, the way the content is delivered, and what the students learn as a result of the process. So, here, while framing the pedagogy, first of all, we have to take care that it should be child-centric, interactive teaching learning process, focusing on individual achievement, that is focusing on student only, and for lifelong learning. So various interactive methods can be used while teaching learning, that is visualization, discussion, cooperative learning, integrating with ICT, etc. Term is assessment. This is very crucial as it is an integral part of learning. Competency-based assessment seeks whether a person can do a given task or group of tasks. Here, now, assessment is an ongoing process, individual checking, diagnostic, and flexible. And it does not finish with exam. Now here, what is the difference between assessment and evaluation? Assessment is a formative assessment. And on the other hand, evaluation is summative, judgmental, fixed, which end with exams only. So we have to choose assessment here, which is diagnostic and flexible, and which can be according to the students. Now, assessment does not finish with exams. And assessment should be such that it should measure all the learning outcomes. On the whole, I like to sum up here that competency-based education is a sum total of learning outcomes, pedagogy, and assessment in our teaching learning. Now, Jaswinder ma'am will discuss a lesson plan of class 12th, which is according to competency-based education.
We saw the participants. Madam Tripta Gujral explain about the competency-based education in general. How to plan to teach any topic in the subject, in all the subjects. Now here we will discuss about one sample plan for the topic potentiometer. You all are familiar that potentiometer is totally practically based topic. And students feel difficulty in understanding this, right? Here we have to explain the student in a good manner. So I want to discuss about what should be the plan for the potentiometer. According to competency-based education, this process is completed in 3 steps. First of all, what are the learning outcomes? Then what are the pedagogy they taken for that learning outcomes? And at the last, we have to assessment. We have to see how much learning outcomes are achieved from the students. So let us discuss about potentiometer. Yes, we are familiar. Potentiometer, electrical instrument used to measure internal resistance, EMF, and potential difference, that with accuracy. Now, if I want to make learning outcomes of this topic, so after the completion of this topic, I want students will be able to, number 1, describe potentiometer. They must know what is potentiometer, how is its construction, what is used in the potentiometer. Second, student must draw the circuit diagram of potentiometer. And from that circuit diagram, student can assemble the circuit, and he can demonstrate the setting and measuring potential gradient in a given potentiometer. Then the student must know about how to use potentiometer to find EMF of a cell. Then how to compare EMF of two cells by using it, and measuring internal resistance of cell by using potentiometer. I want to mention here, if student know how to set potential gradient and measuring it, then student can easily measure EMF of the cell and compare EMF of the cell and calculate internal resistance of the cell. Then student must know how to integrate external resistance to the potentiometer for increasing its sensitivity. And student must be able to find fault in the given setup, experiment setup while performing the experiment. So these are the learning outcomes set for this topic, potentiometer. Now let's come next. What should be the planning and pedagogy to achieve this learning outcomes? So I have taken here 4. First one is demonstration and visualization. Topic will be demonstrated and introduced with the help of circuit diagram drawn, an assembled circuit of potentiometer, so that student can visualize the circuit while solving application-based question. I want to mention one point here. This process demonstration should be very slow. We have to repeat some points again and again during the demonstration, because students feel difficulty in this potentiometer. So remember, whenever we are introducing some difficult topic, we keep the speed slow and we have to repeat some terms and important terms again and again, so that can be visualized later on by the students. Now, next is what? Let us see how potentiometer so named and how we set and measure potential gradient in the potentiometer in the next video.
An electrical instrument used to measure EMF, any potential difference, and internal resistance of cell. Here in this figure, I have shown here 4-meter long wire of alloy constantan or any other alloy connected tightly fitted between what terminals. And parallel to this wire, there is 1 meter long scale. All this arrangement is fixed on what? Wooden pole. And here we connect a battery named as driver battery, ammeter, one-way key and rheostat across this potentiometer to make it as a source of variable potential. From the figure it is clear current is passed in the wire, which can be seen from the ammeter. And keep focus here, student must see whether ammeter is showing the reading or not, because it is the condition required. There must be current flowing through the wire. And here I have connected voltmeter, whose positive terminal at end A and negative to the jockey, which is making temporary connection along the wire. This whole circuit is named as primary circuit, which is required and remains same in all the application of potentiometer. Here voltmeter measures potential difference across this much wire, which is IR, which is equal to I rho L upon E. Rho, resistivity of the wire. A, area of cross section of the wire. It must be uniform. And if constant current is passed through the wire according to this relation, this term I rho upon A, that will be constant. We all familiar, and every student must know that resistivity is constant. This whole term is named as potential gradient, symbol K. If I put here in this equation this term as K, so I will have VHJ is equal to KN. So K is potential difference per unit length, means potential gradient. Change in potential with change in length. And if I move the jockey from A to end B, then there is increase in length of wire between A and J. So there is increase in potential difference across the length of wire. It means with increase in length, there is proportional increase in VAJ, but this term remain constant. So I can say potentiometer is a device with having constant potential gradient. Right? Here, you can ask student, if we want to keep K constant, what precaution should be kept in mind? So I will say this area of cross section must be uniform. And if I want to keep the area of cross section uniform, then we have to make jockey slightly in contact with the wire, not hardly pressed over the wire. Not jockey is pressed slightly over the wire, so that I can keep this potential gradient constant. So remember, with the help of this primary circuit, I can make this wire as a source of variable potential difference from this relation that if we are moving the jockey, L increases and potential difference increases. So remember, this potentiometer is a source of variable potential difference.
Yes, in this video, we have seen how potentiometer act like a source of variable potential. Now here, there is a term potential gradient. And their potential gradient can be written as in two ways. One formula I rho upon A, another K is equal to potential difference V upon L. Here I can show the students how can I change the potential gradient. If I'm using the formula, it is equal to V upon L. I can say here, potential gradient inversely related with length. So I can reduce it by increasing the length. And then I will say, see in the potentiometer, we are using the long wire, length of 4 to 5 meters. It means we have here setting up of what to reduce the potential gradient. Now come to next one. If we are using another formula, I rho upon A, so I can explain the student how can you further or change the potential gradient of a particular potentiometer with the help of this formula I rho upon A. That by changing current, I can also change the potential gradient. So remember, this is the most important term, potential gradient. All the questions related with potentiometer, they all are centered around this potential gradient. So I want this term should be repeated and explained very slow to the student, so there is a permanent picture in the mind of the student regarding potentiometer and what is potential gradient, so that student can able to use it as application for finding EMF, comparing EMF. So let us see how we can use potentiometer as a source of variable potential. At the end of this, you can ask the student about two questions. What are the different ways to change potential gradient of potentiometer? I think now student will be able to explain how to change potential gradient in the potentiometer. And I can also ask a question based upon the previous knowledge. Name the material of wire used here. And what is the reason we are using here this material? Can we use another material? So many questions can be asked after this, up to this demonstration. Now I want to discuss application of the potentiometer based upon potentiometer number 1, that is to find EMF of the cell. I have already stated in the first video that potentiometer and the driver battery, ammeter, rheostat, this is named as the primary circuit. And if we want to find EMF of any cell with the help of potentiometer, we will connect that potentiometer parallel to potentiometer wire, which is named as secondary circuit. So remember, in the application of potentiometer, there will be no change in the primary circuit. Repeat this point, that there will be no change in the primary circuit. We have to change only in the secondary according to the application required. So let us discuss how to find EMF of cell with the help of this potentiometer in the next video.
In the last video, we have seen that potentiometer becomes a source of variable potential difference. So it can be used to measure any EMF of cell. And if we want to calculate EMF of any cell, we will connect that cell parallel to this potentiometer wire through galvanometer. See here, this positive terminal must be connected at end A and negative to the galvanometer and galvanometer to the jockey. And if we move the jockey from end A to end B, then there is increase in length and there is increase in potential difference across the wire. I can imagine this potentiometer wire as a source of variable potential. I can show it as this battery. This is end A and this is end B, and I have connected the cell with unknown EMF here along with the galvanometer. This circuit is secondary circuit, temporary circuit. And I can give understanding how we can measure the EMF with the help of this diagram. If we are moving the jockey, increase in potential difference, so I will say that E dash increases, it means it is a variable, right? And when we move the jockey, E dash increases, and see the current due to both, that is in opposite direction. And when this E dash becomes equal to E, then no current flows through the galvanometer, means null deflection. This method is also named as null deflection method. It means when jockeys move from end A to end B, initially this will be more than potential difference. So current flowing in the circuit because of this cell. With the movement of jockey, this potential difference increases. And difference in this EMF and this potential difference goes on decreasing. That can be observed in the galvanometer, decrease in the deflection. And when it becomes equal, then no deflection, null deflection means pointer will be at the center. And after that, there will be increase in E dash. There is increase in E dash, then current flows in this circuit according to this cell. Direction of current flowing in the galvanometer, that reversed, and deflection goes to the other cell. And keep this point in mind of the students. If we want to see our experiment is right or wrong, then to say check, keep jockey at end A. Then at end B, if deflection is in the opposite direction, then you will have null point on the wire at any point. So this E dash is equal to VAJ, which is equal to KL. It means we must know potential gradient. Right? We can calculate, and that can be done with the help of voltmeter. That is equal to VAJ upon L as shown in the last video. So we can calculate EMF of any cell. Here I can ask the student, imagine the maximum value of E dash when jockey is here. If this value is less than E, will we get null point on the wire? Secondly, if I give the wrong connection here, I am connecting negative of the battery here like this. See here, will we have deflection in the galvanometer? Student can easily answer with the help of this diagram. And these are the two important faults in the experiment. First you ask the students, then explain the students how we get fault in this and how we can observe it in it. So this is the way to find EMF.
Yes, participant. In this video, we have seen how to calculate EMF of the cell with the help of potentiometer. And what is the important here? That is, what are the fault can be seen and observed by the student while performing the experiment. That must be mentioned like this. They may have what? Fault in the experiment. They get one-way deflection at both ends. And student will be asked, what will be the deflection at end A and at B when we are getting both the faults, and they must observe it. Here, I also want to and ask the student to apply Kirchhoff's second law in the closed loop A, J, J, E, A. They will find out the result that when we get the null deflection, what is the principle to find EMF? That when EMF of the cell is equal to potential difference across the length of wire between A and J, then we'll get what? Null point here. Now, this is the right time to introduce sensitivity of the galvanometer. When galvanometer is set to a potentiometer, sensitivity of potentiometer, when does potentiometer is said to be sensitive? So we know sensitivity means to measure very small EMF or potential difference. Then I will come to the formula E is equal to KL. If E is very small, then we have to reduce the potential gradient. Now I will mention in the last demonstration why we are decreasing the potential gradient, why we are using the long length of the wire in the potential. Now when you are doing this, student will be able for getting small measurement of small EMF with the help of, he will connect rheostat and he will connect high resistance in series to the potentiometer. Yes. Here again you can ask the question. What that I have mentioned in the video, if the EMF of the driver cell in primary circuit is less than unknown EMF, then what would be effect on the deflection in galvanometer? Where you will get the more deflection, at end A or at end B. Second one, if the cell with unknown EMF is connected wrongly, that is negative of the cell A at end A of the potentiometer instead of positive, where you get more deflection, at end A and at end B. Now here, you can also ask about the student from the previous knowledge. What is difference between galvanometer and voltmeter? Why are we using galvanometer, not voltmeter? This is the way to find out what EMF. I think when the student understand how to set potential gradient, how to find EMF of the cell, he can easily compare EMF of two cells and find the internal resistance as shown in the next circuit diagram. Then no need to explain how to connect the both cells. Just to mention only this, we are connecting here two parallel circuits with cells EMF E1 and E2 parallel to what? Potentiometer through two-way key, so that we can switch on one cell at one time by putting plug-in key K1 and then another and find the balancing length. They can easily find out the balancing length for the both cells L1 and L2 and find out the EMF ratio E2 upon E1 by using formula L2 upon L1. Next comes this internal resistance. Before discussing about this, you may ask students, what is internal resistance of a cell? What are the factors affecting internal resistance? And what is difference between EMF and terminal potential? Student will say EMF, difference in potential when no current is drawn from the cell, and terminal potential difference in potential when current is drawn. And you can show it here. When you don't put the key plug in the key, then no current drawn by the resistor R, and you are moving the jockey. And when you are getting null point at point J1, it means no current is drawn from the cell. There is no flow of the current to the galvanometer. And put the key. Then repeat the experiment. Resistance R will continuously drawing the current. And when null point is obtained at J2. Now it is the terminal potential difference. So this is the time at which you can give difference between EMF and terminal potential difference. These all are the application. Now come to cooperative learning. We will naturally divide the students in groups for practical work, and different groups are asked to set circuit according to the application required. Means you want to find, you want to show potential gradient, you want to find EMF of the cell, you want to compare, and then student will be asked, see the difference in all the circuit diagrams. When students will see the difference in circuit diagram, that will be fixed, permanent in the mind of students, and they can easily visualize while solving the numerical problem. Now next one, inquiry-based learning. Fault can be set up in the circuit of potentiometer by calculating EMF, and student will be asked to detect it individually and remove it. If students have thorough understanding of this topic, then student can easily remove this fault from it and detect it. So this is all about the pedagogy that is required to achieve our learning outcomes. Now next step is assessment. We have to frame questions to assess, to measure our success in learning outcomes. Now first, what is potentiometer? Why it is so named? Now here the answer of this question depends upon the extent of understanding. Some student will say potentiometer is a device, instrument used to measure EMF, internal potential difference. Some student can explain about its construction. Some will say it is a source of variable potential difference when current is passed through it. It means the answer of the question depends upon the extent of understanding. Next, student will be asked different components in the circuit. Like here, we are using rheostat. We are using galvanometer. Why we are using galvanometer, not voltmeter? Can we use resistance box instead of rheostat? And all the assessment must be correlated with what learning outcomes. If you see, the first assessment is totally related with first learning outcome, that is describe the potential. And you can judge here. There's a third one. What condition required to set potential gradient of potentiometer? You can judge it. So anyone can answer here. Which learning outcome can be judged with the help of what condition required to set potential, and also mention what condition is required. Yes, anyone who can answer here. Madhvi ma'am, will you answer what condition required to set potential gradient of the potentiometer? Yes, Madhvi ma'am. Naresh sir, you can answer this. What condition is required to set potential gradient of potentiometer? How can we set potential gradient along the potentiometer wire? Yes, if I say the first one is what? that there must be the flow of current in the wire. If there is no current flowing in the wire, then potentiometer instrument cannot act as a source of what? Variable potential. So remember, this point should be clear to the students again and again while discussing about the different applications. Mostly it is seen that students never see the emitter, is the current flowing in that? And they come to us, they say that we are getting one-way deflection at both ends. So we have to focus on this point, then there must be flow of current in potentiometer wire. And here, there are other assessment here to judge all learning outcomes. And I want to discuss about one learning outcome here that is very, very important. That is the second last. A student performing experiment on potentiometer found one-way deflection, name the fault. If deflection at end A, more and less at end B. And second one, deflection at end A is less and more at end B. This is very important assessment to check how much achievement of our learning outcomes. So this is the way we can plan for teaching this topic potentiometer in the +2 class. So yes, I want to say, if you have any query about any topic, you can use the chat box regarding it now. Yes, if you have any query regarding any point, you can use chat box. If you want to comment anything, you can use the chat box.
We want to make a point clear over here that now to make the lesson plans, we have to follow the certain steps that we have told you before. That is proper framing of the learning outcomes, linking them with pedagogy, and the very most is assessment. The assessment should be linked to each and every learning outcome. So for the success of competency-based education, proper framing of learning outcomes, linking them with pedagogical strategies, and then assessment is to be done. So this you all have to keep in mind while framing your lesson plans. So any query or any doubt which you would like to discuss with us, you are most welcome for that. And you can use your chat box or you can come as it is. How to use cooperative learning through online teaching?
Sir, that is not possible during online, but when we are teaching in the class, then it is required. Okay, now we can't use it, cooperative learning. Yes, any other question? Yes, any other query?
Good afternoon, everybody. When Jaswinder, you said that it is not possible, I think it will be a very good idea if you make your class divide into groups and ask 4 or 5 children to make a PPT together and give a presentation to the whole class. That
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Definitely.
So I'm encouraging everybody that please don't make it a monologue, one-sided game. On any topic, you can ask children to make their PPTs and give a presentation to the whole class or through the online mode. Right?
Yes,
so that
yes,
will be a good example of the cooperative learning. It is very much possible.
Yes, ma'am, it is possible.
You and Tripta are cooperating and giving a presentation together. So students can also cooperate and give a presentation together, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So please, any other query if you would like to discuss? Practical using. Yes, you are very much right, Shada ma'am. that we can conduct practicals using Amrita OLab, and we have also physics OLabs and all that. And very good good points and good demonstration is given in these practicals. We have gone through that.
Yes, any other query? Any other point you want to discuss?
So at last, we will like to tell you once again that we all have to frame lesson plans and the topics that we will give you later on, so that overlapping is not there, and that will be sent to respected principal ma'am, Rashmi ma'am, and Yogesh sir.
No. They'll send that lesson plans to you. You'll just check it out and you can send the best ones to ma'am.
Okay.
Ji. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Ji. So,
Yes, any other point?
So if anybody wants to share any best practice they are carrying out during this, online classes, they
Yes.
can share. We have teachers from other zones also. So it's good if they would like to share any best practice they are doing, during this online classes. So it will be good for all of us.
so
If you are not asking anything from this particular topic, so let's change the direction, coming to the best practices we all are doing during this online classes. So anybody wants to share? I would like to hear from the teachers of other zones specifically. Kindly raise your hand so that we can unmute you, and we want to listen from you also. Nobody wants to share their best practices?
Sharda ma'am, you want to say something? Please.
Yes, ma'am.
Most welcome, ma'am.
Yeah. Ma'am, I think there is a one stimulator I recently used in my teaching, online teaching, that is the photoelectric stimulator. That is, I think stimulator is the best way to teach. During this lockdown period, especially, it is the best way to teach the students.
No, what is this stimulator? I didn't get it.
Kindly,
Is this some app or what?
Yeah, this is the app, sir, by,
Okay.
yes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
Jaswinder ma'am, as we have done now, when we change the intensity of the light, what will be the effect on the photoelectric current? By using the stimulator, you can actually add the values 50%, 70% intensity. By changing this, you will get the current, amount of current. The app will.
The aim of app, this is simulator.
Yes, ma'am. This is a photoelectric effect stimulator.
Only for photoelectric effect.
Nahin,
Yeah, that can be used for other topics also.
Actually, yes, there is a PHET stimulator, which is
Put this in chat box, ma'am.
okay.
Writing.
Okay.
So that all of us.
You please write the name in the chat box, because somebody is asking for the name of that app. So it's better you write in the chat box. It will be good for others also. Anybody else? Otherwise,
Yes.
attendance link has been shared in the chat box. You are requested to fill your attendance and fill up your feedback also. It's there in the chat box. All the participants, whether you are from our zone or from other zone, everybody is to fill.
At last, I would like to say, last but not the least, we express our gratitude to DAV Managing Committee. Our sincere thanks to our principal ma'am, Dr. Rashmi Vij, for her concern, guidance, and motivation for preparing this presentation. Our special thanks to Mr. Yogesh Gambhir for being cooperative and supportive throughout the webinar. And thanks to all of you for listening us and for your kind cooperation.
Thank you very much, both the resource person, Jaswinder ma'am and Tripta, and thank you all the participants for this wonderful webinar. you all are here. We all have, learned from each other. So thank you very much. I hope all have filled up your feedback and attendance forms. Those who have filled may leave the meeting. Rest, you may stay, because the meeting will continue till 2:05. So at 2:05 it will be ended. So by the time, you please fill up your feedback forms and attendance forms. Those who have filled, they may leave the meeting, please. And still, for 5 minutes, resource persons are here. In case any question comes in your mind now, you can ask.
Yes.
You can ask. So the name of that app is already written in the chat box. You please note it down. Mr. Ashish. I suppose there are less number of participants, so they all have. Yes, you want to ask something, Mr. Ashish?
I've used this app. It has got a very limited number of these simulations. Only
Your
few topics
voice
are
is
there.
not that clear. Be bit louder.
Yeah, I've used this app also. This has got very limited number of simulations for very limited topics. Not for all topics of this +1 +2.
Okay.
It has got only 106 total
Okay.
number of topics, just topics. But this is very good. It works very well.
Okay.
But we can use in that topics.
Hanji.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay,
any
then.
other want to share anything?
So everybody is waiting for the lunch. It's lunch time. So that's why everybody is silent. So anyways, thank you very much, ma'am, once again, and thank you all the participants.
Thank you,
So
sir.
hopefully
Thank you,
we will
sir.
meet very
Thanks a
soon. Okay, ji. Stay home, stay safe. Bye-bye. Chinky, please end the meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.